We are waking up to concerning trends regarding the tropics as we are tracking two separate tropical systems. One was named Tropical Storm Humberto yesterday afternoon per the National Hurricane Center. The other is what we call Invest 94L, basically a strong tropical wave that will most likely become our next named storm, which is the I name Imelda here in the next few to several days or so as we get into early next week. So the first thing we'll go over is current conditions with these two storm systems. We won't stay on that very long. We'll go over the latest from the National Hurricane Center, and then we'll go over the fan favorite, which is certainly all the model guidance from overnight into this morning. We'll get very detailed on all that. We'll even show you the hurricane models, which are quite concerning, folks. I just want to say that up front. And then we'll kind of geek out with you guys a little bit, discuss steering currents and all that. And my goal on that part of the video is to explain things in a way where you guys, the audience, can understand. So we'll slow it down and do that. And then stay tuned for the very end if you want to join us for a Bible devotion. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. If anybody has anything I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. Let's get rocking and rolling this morning. So let's make sure this is going to work, and it is. So I do want to show a little love to Gabrielle. We're not tracking this storm system anymore, but still a Category 1 hurricane racing across the North Atlantic. So we'll get that circle back off your screen. This is Tropical Storm Humberto. It was dubbed yesterday, like I said, per the National Hurricane Center. It's a 45-mile-per-hour tropical storm. Still very disorganized, getting blasted by some shear. And then we have Invest 94L, and this is pretty much future Imelda. And I'm pretty confident in saying that because model guidance is very confident in this becoming our next named storm, which is Imelda, the I name. So these are the two storm systems where you're watching. They are very close to one another, right? So pretty wild stuff. And them being so close to one another could impact steering, especially for the weaker one. But we'll dive into that as we move forward. So we'll just take a broad look. We're not going to take a very close look at these storm systems with this video, but moving forward, the latest from the National Hurricane Center, a different way to look at it. This is Zoom Earth. It's basically the same information from the National Hurricane Center. It's just kind of overlaid on a different site here. And this is an awesome free site. You guys should check it out. It's called Zoom Earth. But this is Tropical Storm Humberto. It's a 45-mile-per-hour system. Forecast to become a hurricane by Saturday afternoon, and then a Category 2 hurricane by sometime Saturday night and a Sunday morning, and then should become a major hurricane. Now forecast to become Category 3 or higher storm by sometime Sunday night into Monday morning. It could weaken back to a Category 2 hurricane by sometime early next week. So that is the cone for Humberto. We're not as worried about impacts to the East Coast with Humberto compared to this right here, but we need to watch Bermuda. Okay, and this right here, this is Invest 94L. And this could develop, let's back it up a little bit, into this red area has a right now, per the 5 a.m. update, still an 80% chance to develop into a depression or a next named storm between now and the next 7 days or so. It has a 50% chance to develop into that between now and the next 48 hours. So I really think at the 8 a.m. update, this is what I think they're going to do. I think they're going to push this area. I think they're going to push this area a little bit more like this, or they might shrink it, but kind of go like this. But we'll watch for that. I want to see what they do with this area. But this is the latest pretty high chance, quite literally a high chance of development with this Invest 94L. So let's go over all model guidance, right? Let's start off with the Euro. The 06Z Euro might be running right now, and maybe we'll kind of go back to that here shortly, but we're going to focus on what we have, which is the latest overnight Euro. So we'll start off by tomorrow afternoon. So if I forget to mention dates, times, things like that, FRI stands for Friday, and there's your actual date right up here. I know it might be kind of small on your screen. So just to kind of re-go over this, this is Humberto, and this little blob of green and splashes of yellow and orange, that is Invest 94L, future Imelda. Okay, I have a feeling we're going to be saying Imelda a lot over the next several days because this is the system we need to worry about the most. Okay, now this is still, I think this is a strengthening tropical storm at this point tomorrow afternoon. So at 998 is what the Euro is saying this is going to be by tomorrow afternoon. And then we get into, say, let's take it all the way to Sunday morning. Okay, September the 28th. Now we have a 964 millibar low. So You know, the Euro has this pretty far south, so is it going to be close enough to, bring some impacts to the Virgin Islands? I'm not sure. I don't think so, but it's kind of like where Aaron was, what was that, like a month and a half ago, it seems like, or several weeks back. But Bermuda's right here, and then we got what could be at this point Imelda, 1,005 millibar low. One would say, just based off millibar, this is a tropical storm. So we continue to move into Monday morning. Notice how this is now racing off pretty fast this way. And at this point, we have a 949 millibar hurricane with Humberto. Humberto. I'm going to mess up that name many times over the next several days, so just go on and get ready. So it's pronounced actually Humberto. Okay, so this is a major hurricane, category 3 or higher at this point. But I want to go on and get a little bit closer and just speak more on a future Imelda. Here it comes. And we're getting into Monday morning. This has a 998, a strengthening tropical system, already bringing a slug of heavy rain into the Carolinas and areas of Georgia up to Virginia, right? And we're going to talk about how we could have divergence aloft, which could promote more of a heavy rain threat across the eastern seaboard because of this system. Literally, moisture gets pulled north. We'll speak on that here in a second. 998. And then we take it into a Monday afternoon, and we have a landfalling, very strong tropical storm, a category 1 hurricane, per the Euro. And notice this gets way out in front of what is Humberto at the bottom of your screen there, which is a powerful category 4 or 5 hurricane based off this. And yes, you don't like to see this, but the latest Euro and many other model runs, unfortunately, folks, now have this plowing right into the Carolina coastline. So this is getting into this coming Monday night, September 29th into the 30th, and it has a tropical storm going right through the Carolinas, all the way up to the Appalachian Mountains. Not a forecast, not trying to freak anybody out. We're still trying to figure this one out, right? And then it just kind of spins around, and actually the energy gets back off the coast of the southeast and tries to redevelop again. And this is getting deeper in October and makes another landfall. We won't look at that too much right now. What about the GFS? The GFS is concerning also, guys. I'm not going to lie to you. So once again, we'll start off Friday evening, tomorrow night. 992 millibar low right here. This is Humberto, and this little cluster of dark green, this is Invest 94L. Okay, as we're getting into Sunday morning, at this point, you can call this Tropical Storm Imelda. This is strong hurricane, maybe major hurricane Humberto. Okay, they're right beside each other. Nothing's changed with that. And as we're getting into Monday morning, I know it loses the L right here. We have a category 2 or 3 hurricane with Humberto, and we got a strengthening tropical system with what will be Imelda. And here's a closer look at it, 998. Here it comes, 995 Monday morning. And boom, getting all the way up to Tuesday morning. It has a category 1, maybe low-end category 2 hurricane making landfall along the South Carolina coastline. And this is not like 2 Tuesdays from now. This is this coming Tuesday morning, early next week, September the 30th, last day of September. Landfalling hurricane now is what it's showing, not a forecast. We're going over model guidance. Making landfall in South Carolina. And it definitely is further south, brings widespread impacts, and yeah. So what about the Euro AI model? What does it show? And we'll have the 06Z run probably here in the next hour or so. But it's a little bit better looking. Once again, you can see this is Humberto, and this is getting into Monday evening. It doesn't have this racing forward as fast. So therefore, it's probably going to get yanked by Humberto to the east a little bit more. And you can see that as we get closer, it looks like it's heading right towards the Carolinas. It's close enough to bring impacts. This is Tuesday morning. Category 1 hurricane sitting right off the coast of the southeast. And this is Humberto right here, a strong hurricane itself. And then it gets yanked east and we're saved, right? So that's a scenario also. The Canadian model, just taking a closer look at it, it does exactly it pretty much meets a middle ground between the GFS and the Euro and takes just a flat-out Category 2 hurricane right into the Carolina coastline as we're getting into Monday evening. And I'll talk about what's changed and why we're getting more model runs hitting the southeast coastline as we get deeper into the steering current portion of the video. Not going to leave you hanging on the whys with that and all of that. But the Icon model, this only goes out 120 hours out, but basically it looks like this is going to take the more of the route as the Euro AI model does. And this is like a very, very strong hurricane at this point. And this is already influencing the steering of this. So one thing I want to go back and look at here is let's see if we do have the run of the 06Z Euro, just to get you all the information. We don't. So I was trying to see if we could get you all the information. What about the latest Euro ensemble? Remember, this makes up 51 members. Okay, you're going to see more members, higher confidence with this storm system here. So this is Humberto. This is future Imelda. So this is starting off Friday afternoon or so. So we continue to move forward here. That is concerning. Okay, first off, we got a major hurricane. And what's a little bit concerning to me, guys, is you have several members now with Humberto that is slipping pretty far south. That's odd. But let's focus on what would be future Imelda. You see all these members? And this is still a couple handfuls, so not the majority of them. But you see all these members that are racing north? And you got some members kind of hanging down here. Okay? And some of the members that hang down here, I mean, that's not good news either. It could be good news if Humberto kind of does its job, right? And yanks this back east. But listen, hardly none of these members now on the Euro ensemble is doing this number anymore. It's kind of going like this, right? A lot of them are either kind of going like this, they're kind of going like that. And then you got Humberto, which is kind of right into here. And I mean, honestly, it looks like it's ticked a little bit west also. But this is the concerning trend right here, is how the ensembles is now liking the idea of a landfall. And I mean, you got many members down here in Florida also. A lot of them. And some of them sneak into the Gulf. So you look at the Google DeepMind ensemble guidance, and it's just as concerning, folks. I mean, that's, Humberto, which has a major hurricane on almost all the members. But look what it does with future Imelda. I mean, it plows a ton of members right into the Carolina coastline. Now, if you do look, the pivot point is met in some of these members, and you can see how some of these members are kind of getting yanked like this. That is because Humberto yanks some of these scenarios to the east. But then some of these runs get north too fast, get pulled up by this cutoff low that we're about to discuss, and, the damage is done. So let's go over hurricane models. And I'm not going to simulate all of them up to the point. We're going to go all the way to the end of the run with all the hurricane models, okay? And this is the OOZ. The 06Z ones are probably about to run. Let's see if we got them yet. They are. So they're running still. So we're just going to stick with what we have, which is the OOZ runs. And getting into Monday night, it has a 955 millibar hurricane, which one could argue that's a high-end Category 2 or Category 3 hurricane just north of the Bahamas. And, I mean, we can back it up because I know it's just doing weird stuff. But it has a major hurricane just about right off the coast of the eastern sections of Florida. This is the HFA model. The HFB model ain't any better. It's a little bit faster, has a little bit further north, and it's a little bit further off the coast of Florida and Georgia. That's the Georgia coastline. This is the North Florida coastline. Has a 947 hurricane. That's a major hurricane off the coast of northeast Florida, of Georgia, tucked right off the coast of the southeast. And then we have the faster models like the H-Wharf and H-Mon model, which same time frame, getting into this Monday night into Tuesday morning, has a landfalling 964 millibar hurricane right into the southern sections of the Outer Banks. This is pretty much into the North Carolina coastline. And then we got the H-Mon model, which is about to make landfall also as a hurricane Monday evening, right between, Charleston and Myrtle Beach. So, I know some people say shouldn't take some of these hurricane models serious, but listen, I'm always going to respect the hurricane models, and sometimes they're going to completely whiff. We know that. But a lot of times they are correct, especially when it comes to the strength or lack of strength of storm systems. I think Milton was a fantastic example. Everybody, including me, did not believe the scenarios of a tropical system crossing, from basically the Pacific into the Atlantic and then becoming basically a super Category 5 storm in the Gulf. And that's what happened with Milton. And ended up being one of the strongest storm systems on record. So I think we need to respect what the hurricane models are depicting with Imelda, and it is quite concerning. So if we go over steering currents, and this is where we're going to slow it down, and hopefully I can explain this in a way where you guys understand. That's my goal here. Let's make this a little bit bigger. So we got high pressure and low pressure. This area in kind of a salmon color, pink color, orange color, whatever you want to call it, that is high pressure. And then you got the areas in blue, which is low pressure. That's the area right here. That's the area right here. So there's 4 things we're kind of talking about here, right? 3 of these are low pressure. 1 of these are high pressure. This is Humberto. This is future Imelda. And this is what we call a cutoff low. Okay? I want you to just remember and keep this in mind. The flow around this cutoff low is going just like this. Okay? The flow around these 2 areas of low pressure, same thing. Cyclonic. Cyclonic flow, just like that. Okay? The flow around the bottom edge of this ridge is kind of going like this. Well, it is going like this. So this is what's steering Humberto kind of in this direction, or this direction. And then you have 2 flows working in tandem, because you got the flow at this edge of the ridge right here, and the flow going around this cutoff low like this. So therefore, the system's going to kind of sneak up through here, maybe even through here, or maybe through here. And it's kind of heavy. Like I said, you got 2 different flows that we got 2 of the same flows that are working in tandem for this to kind of split the gap between this cutoff low. So the big question is, before we get this in motion, does future Imelda feel the pull of this fast and yank it up? And we get one of those scenarios where we have a landfalling hurricane along the southeast coastline. I think the path of this is a little bit more easier to figure out, but we still got things to figure out with Humberto too. But this is the big feature we are watching. Does this stay strong and stay in place long enough to, unfortunately, yank this into the southeast coastline? We need that to get out of here. Okay? So we look at, well, this is the latest GFS, and this is what happens, is it weakens, right? So as it weakens, there's still some influence there, even though you're not seeing any blue here anymore. But the thing that I'm seeing now is a stronger ridge on top. Okay? And honestly, what I think happens here is the damage is already done, and this up cutoff low kind of pulls this north fast enough to the point where it's already got, I guess, some forward progression. It's gaining latitude. And at the same time, don't want to ignore Humberto. Okay, this is getting steered like this, and eventually like this. And remember, a stronger storm system wants to gain latitude more, so it's going to fight up against that ridge a lot more. So I think on this particular run, the damage is already done, you know, in a way to say it, all right? And this thing is already heading this way. So even though this feature begins to weaken, this thing's already kind of splitting through. And here it comes at this point, and at the same time, we got the flow kind of going like this. And, I mean, a ridge is going to just kind of push this right into this area. Now, you think that this is going to head this way too. And, you know, looking at this, if you showed me this, I would think, yeah, I mean, you might want to worry. But remember that, and we're going to go on and flip it to this. Remember, a stronger system with Humberto is going to want to gain latitude. I don't want to watch to see how this ridge breaks up. And it does. You see what happens here? This system at this point, which is future Imelda, already makes landfall. Okay, already moves in. But there is a weakness right here for Humberto to kind of head on out right into here, because the trough digs down out of Canada and kind of creates a weakness in the ridge and kind of breaks it wide open. So that's why Humberto kind of goes like this and heads on out. And it tries to yank on that Fujiwara effect. It tries to pivot, create a pivot point kind of right into here and try to yank this system in, but it doesn't do it fast enough because it gets too far north fast, because I think of what that cutoff low is doing. It's yanking it too far north too fast. So you can see what happens here. It's coming up, and it tries to pull on it a little bit right here as it's heading on out, and you can see, but I mean, too little too late, right? And you can see on the Euro how it kind of does it too here as we're moving forward here. Here it comes, already a landfalling tropical system at this point early next week. We got a very strong hurricane, and then Humberto kind of comes up midway next week, pulls on the leftovers of Imelda, tries to yank it away, and it kind of does, but then it detaches and it develops into another tropical system right into here. So I hope that makes sense. I know that's a little bit difficult to understand, but I mean, at the end of the day, we got to watch in the short to medium term that cutoff low. Does it pull up what will be future Imelda fast? Okay. So, a couple other things here that we'll talk about is strengthening of Imelda. I'm not going to get deep into the strengthening of Humberto right now because it's honestly getting hit with shear. When the shear relaxes, Humberto is going to take off. What about Imelda? Okay, here's our system right here. I think there's a couple things working against this system to really take off. One is the shear created by the cutoff low itself, which is kind of diving down to here and sort of hitting this system. But then it works with this system as divergence aloft is created and a lot of air is being blasted north of the storm, which is right here. This actually helps for a huge expansion of air being dispersed aloft, and as that gets dispersed aloft, it allows for a huge area of convection to blow up and just, moist air. Rising air allows for moist air, right? So if air is being dispersed out away from the storm, it allows for more air to rise up through. That gets dispersed out, and that's happening especially, here's our low pressure, especially on the northern side of the storm system right here. Now, dry air is probably going to get wrapped up into the bottom edge of this system right here, but there's tons of moist air kind of blasting out ahead of the system, and that's why I'm concerned about a flooding threat kind of into here. Okay, and if you continue to move forward because of, and you can see what's happening here. You can see a lot of air is working up against the system right here. This is probably pushing dry air up into the system, but a lot of air is being pushed out away from the system right here. So it's kind of like a positive and a negative working with this system. And you can see it well when I talk about dry and moist air here as we're moving forward here. You see how the dry, it's a great example of it actually. See how there's a ton of dry air coming with this, coming into the system right here. It gets into the bottom half of the system, which is right here, but then there's a lot of moist air on the northern side of the system. A lot of disbursement of air on this side of the system. This is going to provide a big area of moist air and just rain, right? Heavy rain into the areas of the Carolinas, up into Virginia and the Mid-Atlantic. And I think that there's so much dry air coming to the bottom edge of this system that it's not going to allow for this system to, I don't think, rapidly strengthen. I think it could strengthen at a moderate pace, but it could definitely be one of those tropical systems that's kind of like a half a cane, right? One part of the system is loaded with convection, the other is like just dry. And we see that a lot. It could actually lose a lot of its tropical characteristics because of all this dry air getting wrapped in. So what is it? The Weather Prediction Center. Sorry about that. The Weather Prediction Center is already predicting a lot of rain, and I think this is going to increase. This is between now and the next week. They're already going for several inches of rain in eastern North Carolina, a lot of rain up into the Mid-Atlantic. So they're already kind of slowly sounding the alarm for a lot of rain coming. And I think that this will increase if we continue to have model trends like this. You even look at the rain up here. Now, this is adding in some rain between now and then, right? There's a storm system coming in over the next couple days into Saturday. But a lot of this is from what we're watching with this tropical system. So that's all I got, guys. I'm not going to have a daily forecast today. Listen, we're locked into the tropics now, and we really just need to put most of our focus on this. So for my daily watchers that, certainly watch for a daily forecast, we're going to have to back off with that for about a week as we put all of our focus on this. But I'm never going to back off on these Bible devotions. So this morning we're in James chapter 4, verse 11 through 12. Okay. And that says, if I can find it, don't criticize one another, brothers and sisters. Anyone who defames or judges a fellow believer defames and judges the law. If you judge the law, you are not a doer of the law, but a judge. There's one lawgiver and judge who is able to save and to destroy. That's God. But who are you to judge your neighbor? So I put a couple things. Don't gossip or judge. I do believe the more you do it, the easier it becomes for you to do it. So I think we know that, right? That's really with any bad habits. There is only one ultimate lawgiver and judge who has the power to save and destroy, and that's God. Live out God's love, and remember, only God has the right to judge. When you do this, you will focus more on showing love to others. So I can speak for myself, guys. I am hard on people. And I do it, I sometimes I use this as my excuse as I'm doing it out of love, but I am somebody that I hold people accountable, but I also want people to hold me accountable. So growing up, I never had a lot of people hold me accountable. I never had anybody kind of come up to me and say, dude, shut up and quit whining and just get it done, or get through it. And I wish I did. And I kind of had to figure that out on my own. And sometimes I can be hard on others. I always like to say, hey, if I'm going to say something about you, if I'm going to say something about you to someone else, I'm always going to say it to your face first before I do that. But that's not a right way to think either. And listen, I'm always being vulnerable with you guys, being real, but it's something I struggle with. I think that there's a healthy way to approach this, and I think you do it out of love. If you see one of your other fellow friends or believers struggling with something, just go up to them and talk to them out of love, out of not you getting something out of it, like, oh, I want to get the satisfaction of calling this person out, but because you really genuinely want to help that person, and not just you just want to criticize them in front of themselves or others, especially, which is even worse. So that's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. God bless all y'all. Y'all have a wonderful day, and we'll do it again tonight.